I'm about to push it live before the 2-minute clock goes off, Adam, just so you know. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Stochastic MLB Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by So Rare MLB. We will talk about So Rare a little bit later. Sorry for the late start, guys. Had some tech issues, but we are ready to go. We've got to get this done in 49 minutes, and we got to talk about 2 slates. So we'll go fairly quickly through this. But Adam, how's your morning going?
Morning's going well because it's not last night, and last night sucked. So on to a new day. Lost at pretty much everything I tried yesterday. So not pretty much, did lose at everything I tried yesterday. So looking forward to today. We have MMA. We have a couple MLB slates, have a couple NBA slates. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, should be a fun one. Yeah, I see Rich Burkholder in chat suggesting that I was making XFL lineups. I actually took the slate off today, the 4-game slate. For some reason, every week the XFL starts at a time that I'm on a show. Maybe I'm just on a lot of shows, I guess. But the lock time for XFL for some reason today is in 48 minutes. So I'm like, I can't be making those lineups. So I actually took the main slate off of XFL. Kind of sad to do so, but we can move on. We don't need to talk about my XFL sadness here. We will talk about this MLB slate. First of all, well, let's just jump into the games, and I'll look up the weather as we talk about it. We can see if there are any weather spots. But the first game on this slate appears to be Toronto at the Yankees. Alek Manoah on the mound for Toronto. Garrett Cole for the Yankees. Starting with the pitchers, Adam, what is your level of interest?
Yeah, I mean, 2 good pitchers going here. Obviously, 2 pretty difficult matchups, but we don't appear to have data for the early slate. So still 2 very good pitchers. Cole, obviously the guy you're going to look to get to first, just the better strikeout pitcher, more proven pitcher than Manoah. Still a tough matchup for him, but certainly happy to get the Garrett Cole. Manoah coming in at 6,800 on DraftKings. I think that there is merit to going to him in tournaments just because he's cheap. 26.6% strikeout percentage to righties since the start of last year. Sub 100 expected ISO over that time as well. Has had some issues this year. Obviously, limited sample, but only a 14.5% strikeout percentage against righties, 18% to lefties. He's given up power to both sides. This is probably a reason you're seeing that cheap price tag on him. So there is very obviously risk here. 1, because he's facing the Yankees. 2, because don't really know what's going on with him. But at that price tag, if you get there in some tournaments, that's fine. Garrett Cole, though, I think is clearly the priority.
Yep, absolutely. And then with these 2 tough pitchers on the mound, what's your level of interest in the bats here?
Not any really in Toronto. The Yankees, you can certainly make a case for just based on 1, they are the Yankees, and 2, they are facing a pitcher, Manoah, that has struggled so far this year. Not that you're not looking at this and saying, like, oh yeah, Manoah is never going to be good again. This is who he is. But there could just be some underlying issue, whether it's, injury related or something else. So, there's just obviously a lot of upside there for the Yankees.
Yep, absolutely. How about 4 sides of the game? How do you rank them?
Cole 1, Yankees bats 2, Manoah 3, Blue Jays bats 4.
Okay. Aggressive Goose says I got top 5 in 2 contests, and the Colts had 2 entries ahead of me in both. Yeah, same. Like every time I do well, the Colts is just beating me. What are we talking, MLB here or NBA? What are we talking about? Aggressive Goose. He's just incredible. Steve, just the run he's on. Yeah, all of the above is absolutely right. All right. Next game on the mound, we have Washington at Minnesota. We've got Chad Kuhl on the mound for the Nats, Pablo Lopez for my Twins. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
So decent pitcher in Pablo Lopez at 8,100, not very decent pitcher in Chad Kuhl at 5,300. Certainly some interest in Lopez. 2.6% or not 2.6%, 2.6 implied run total for the Nats. We know this is a pretty bad offense. Not a ton of strikeouts there, but at 8,100, you don't need a ton of strikeouts to be happy that you went to Lopez. So I do like getting there. Again, not really interested in getting to Chad Kuhl at all, but definitely interested in getting to an $8,100 Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, for sure, against the Nats. What about the bats here?
The Twin side is interesting. The weather there, you would know better than me, but yeah, it looks like it's in the 30s again. So again, not good hitting weather. If you had good hitting weather, you would certainly like the Twins a lot more, but you still have a 4.9 implied run total here. You have a pitcher in Kuhl who doesn't miss a lot of bats, does give up some power. Since the start of last season, a 220 expected ISO to lefties, 205 to righties, sub 20% strikeout percentage to both sides of the plate. Joey Gallo got a nice lineup bump today. He's hitting second for the Twins. He looks really good. Homered yesterday as my home run pick. I, of course, did not bet it, so that's why it happened. But he looks really good again. Now he got, the lineup bump. You have Max Kepler hitting cleanup. Polanco's in there hitting fifth. That's another good left-handed bat. Larnock's hitting sixth. Obviously, you can go to Buxton Correa. Cole's not great against righties either, but this sets up as a pretty favorable spot for Minnesota.
Yeah. Have you ever been called Adam Pac-Man Scherer? 1-2 says Showdown Shaman and Adam Pac-Man Scherer, my two favorite hosts. Have you ever been called Adam Pac-Man? I'm new to this nickname.
It's an Adam Jones reference, but I like it.
Yeah, it's not a bad nickname there. And yes, I had friends who were going to be going to the Twins game today, and then finally, my friend's wife said, "Why are we going to the game when it's in the 30s? Isn't the reason you go to baseball games to enjoy like sunshine and beer?" And yeah, I'm like, I would never consider going to a game in the 30s. Yeah, I'm. How would you rank the four sides of this one?
Lopez 1, Twins 2, Nats 3, Cool 4.
Okay. We will move on to Dodgers at Cubs. We've got Dustin May on the mound for the Dodgers. Hayden Wesneski on the mound for the Cubs. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
Wesneski is not somebody I want to get to against the Dodgers. Most pitchers are not. Dustin May's a good pitcher. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, though. So I think you're just going to be able to find better options on the slate. We've already talked about really liking Pablo Lopez. You have Cole. You have a cheap Manoah if you needed to pay down. Dustin May is somebody that, again, we don't have ownership on the slate yet. I assume he's going to be low owned. And if he is, he works as a pivot. Like, my assumption is that Pablo Lopez for $200 less is just going to pull a bunch more ownership than May. And I like Lopez more, but if you're playing large field tournaments, you could certainly have a lineup where it's like, oh, well, I need a lower owned pitcher in this price range. May is fine there. He's a good pitcher, but typically not somebody I target too aggressively in DFS.
Yeah, it's it looks like it's cold and windy in Chicago, so that could help a little bit. But then it's also rainy, so there's a little bit of cold,
Wind's
rainy,
blowing
windy.
out a little bit too.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say wind is blowing out, but it's cold and rainy, so kind of hard to know how to what to expect as far as batting in this kind of weather. What about the stacks in this game? Any interest?
Yeah, it's a Dodgers game, so always gonna have some interest there going up against a pretty unproven pitcher in Wesneski. Still only like a 4.4 implied run total for the Dodgers. I don't think it's a great spot since the start of last year. Limited sample for Wesneski, but 107 expected ISO to righties is very good. 121 expected ISO to lefties is very good. Not great strikeout stuff, but has done a good job limiting power. That said, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, JD Martinez, James Outman, like this isn't your normal lineup. So there is still plenty of upside for the Dodgers, assuming that they're not very popular. I would like them. If for some reason they are getting a lot of ownership, I'm not like in love with the spot or anything. On the other side for the Cubs, I don't really have interest because I think May is a good pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with that in mind, how would you rank the four sides of this game?
Dodgers bats 1, May 2, I guess Cubs bats 3, Wesneski 4.
Okay. I do want to check in on, I don't think my Dodgers, we made that lineup yesterday in Sober. I made the lineup. You guys helped me out a little bit making that lineup. And the Dodgers, of course, put up 0 runs in Wrigley yesterday in prime conditions. So that was pretty unfortunate. We'll check in on my Sober lineups. Let's do one more game before we do this. Let's do Colorado at Phillies first. Kyle Freeland on the mound for the Rockies. Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies. Adam, starting with the pitchers, what is your level of interest here?
Not very high. I do need to kind of see what Christopher Sanchez is. I remember the name from last year. I don't really remember anything about him. It is a good matchup. He is 5K. I doubt that he's somebody you're going to need to get to. On the other side, certainly not looking to go to Freeland against the Phillies. For Sanchez, he's 26. He's made 2 starts in AAA this year, 8 2/3 innings. Good strikeout percentage, 33% at AAA. Doesn't project to be a good strikeout pitcher in the majors. The bat has him at 22.6%. 3.65 expected FIP from the bat. That's obviously good. He's 5K. So like if you need to pay down here, I guess, you can. 15 appearances in the majors last year, 3 starts, 4.2 xFIP, struck out about 20% of hitters. So like for a 5K pitcher, he's fine and the matchup's good, but I also just sort of doubt that you need to get there.
Okay. And then what about the bats on the other side of it?
Yeah, certainly interest in bats here. Kyle Freeland's not a bad pitcher, but doesn't miss a lot of bats. You do have a lot of power in the Phillies lineup. Turner, Castellanos in particular are going to look good. Real Muto, Bohm from the left side also. It does kind of suck for a Philly stack in that Freeland or Stott and Schwarber, two of the hitters that we go to the most often, are both left-handed going against Freeland. Freeland has actually given up some power to lefties since the start of last year, though. 220 expected ISO. So I don't think if you're stacking, you ignore those guys, but clearly you would prefer they were facing a righty. On the other side for the Rockies, they do still have a relatively healthy 4.5 implied run total against Sanchez. Like I said, doesn't look like anything special as a pitcher. Looking to Chris Bryant, CJ Cron in particular, I think makes sense.
Okay. And then how would you rank the four sides of it?
Phillies bats, Rockies bats, Sanchez, Freeland.
Andrew Martinez asked Cole or McClanahan paired with Lopez. Do you have an opinion on this?
I mean, McClanahan
Cole at Toronto and going against the White Sox.
I probably McClanahan.
Yeah, I think I would lean McClanahan there as well, particularly with the tough matchup for Cole. Obviously, Cole a stud, but tough spot here. All right, well let's move on. First, let me talk just briefly about our sponsor, So Rare MLB, and let me share my screen real quick. We can check in on how my lineup is doing. I don't think it's off to a great start. Did that work? Am I sharing my screen here? I just switched the view, but I don't see. Oh, never mind. Hang on one sec. There we go. Had to add it to the stream. All right, let's check in on how I am doing in this So Rare competition. So Rare, of course, the sponsor of the negative 1.9 fantasy points. All right, maybe not off to the best start here, but of course they can turn it around in a hurry. So Rare, of course, sponsor of the show. You buy cards, you can use them in contests. They are collectibles as well. These cards, you can hold on to them forever. Hopefully the value goes up. But if not, you can use them in competitions for as long as the player's career goes. As long as Jacob deGrom is pitching, you're going to be able to play this card in contests. The contests go just 3 days for this one. It's just a very short one, but they have 2 contests every week. It's typically Friday through Sunday, and then Monday through Thursday are the 2 contest periods for these. Kind of unique scorings. 2 points for a pitcher. You can obviously get negative points, as you see here with Muncy. Where's the negative? He got I don't see where what the actual scoring, what the reasoning is for that -2 here, but I believe it's like strikeouts, you get negative points. It's interesting scoring here on Sora, and a really fun way to play in these competitions. It's not DFS, it's fantasy sports. It's you're not playing just one day, it's periods of 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of different types of contests you can play as well, and of course they are single entry, so if you don't like playing against MME contests, you can play these contests that are just 1 entry per person. A lot of weak entries in these contests. Mine, for example, here with negative score here. So you don't have to do much to beat the field here. Hopefully we can, show this on Monday, and I will have actually got a positive score here from my team. Negative for Outman, negative for Max Muncy here. Got a few points from Mookie Betts, but not a lot of upfront costs to join these So Rare competitions. I put in like $600-700. I think that I could use the cards. I could enter competitive lineups every week going forward for the entire season. And you can win ETH prizes. You can, of course, win more cards in these contests. In this limited pro contest, you can also win some rare cards, which are pretty valuable. You can then use those to enter the rare contest and win more money playing in those. Or you can, you could sell those and buy more limited cards if you just want to focus on the limited stuff. So very, very cool contest. Highly recommend checking out So Rare MLB. I've been playing the NBA product, had a lot of success with NBA. Clearly not off to the best start here with MLB, but hopefully I will be able to turn it around, and highly recommend that you guys check it out as well. All right, let's move back, and we do have a lot to get through here. So I will go back to talking about.
Just to quickly retouch on that McClanahan Cole question.
Yeah.
Double checked it with our projections, and it's pretty much what I expected. Cole projects like 1.5 points or so better than McClanahan, but he's also more expensive. So really, it just comes down to if you have the salary for Cole, play Cole. If you would need to blow something up to get to Cole, just play McClanahan. Yep,
makes sense. We got a few questions here. Ryan Stubbs just said, "At least you got a lineup." I forgot. Yeah, it's tough because it's outside of your regular routine. Now it is routine for me because I've been playing NBA, but you gotta remember to play these contests, because every time I missed some contests in NBA early on, and it was definitely sad for me. I really enjoy it's just different being able to check it every week. Sometimes I'm like, man, my DFS is not going well. It's fun to have that So Rare lineup and say, hey, at least I'm doing well there. But yeah, it's a bummer when you miss out. All right, Mets at Giants. We've got David Peterson on the mound for the Mets, Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants. Starting with the pitchers, Adam, How do you like him?
Two solid enough pitchers. 4.1 implied run total for the Mets, 4.4 for the Giants. I prefer the Webb side, 7,700, certainly a reasonable price tag there. Not a great strikeout pitcher, 21.6% since the start of last year, but a very good real life pitcher, 3.24 xFIP, 3.45 Sierra, low walk percentage, doesn't give up power. Not the best matchup against the Mets. Good park as far as limiting power goes, average park in terms of park factor for runs. So yeah, like Webb's fine at 7,700. I think he's another guy that you can use as a pivot from Lopez, assuming Lopez is going to be more popular. David Peterson does have good strikeout stuff, 27.1% since last year, 3.3 xFIP. Does walk too many guys, 10% walk percentage, but he is cheap. So, as far as SP2s go, if you need to pay down, there is at least a ceiling for him. And like I said, this park does limit power drastically. So that's good for him as well. I think he's sort of like Alek Manoah, where you're probably just going to have more often than not, you're going to be able to get to some combination of Cole, McClanahan, Lopez, and not have to really worry about these guys too much. But if you do need to pay down, there is at least upside on Peterson.
Okay. And then the bats on the other side of it.
Not much interest here just because the park does kill power so much. David Peterson, like I said, gives up some power, but it's actually been mostly to lefties since last year. Only a 115 expected ISO to righties, 233 to left-handed hitters. Typically, I don't buy into reverse splits too much. I'm not going to look at this and say like, oh, you can't play Estrada, Flores, JD Davis, but it certainly just makes it so there's nothing really I can point to individually where it's like, oh yeah, well, I really like this guy. And then similarly on the other side, Logan Webb just doesn't give up a lot of power. You have better hitters, I think, in the Mets lineup than the Giants lineup, but still just really difficult to want to get to bats here too often.
Okay. And then how would you rank the four sides of this game?
Logan Webb 1, David Peterson 2, Giants 3, Mets 4.
All right, and then we have just one final game here. Hopefully we will get ownership projections and we can just briefly touch on those after we get them, after we've gone through all of the games. But yeah, we're still waiting on those right now. All right, final game of this early slate is the White Sox at the Rays. We have Dylan Cease on the mound for the White Sox, Shane McClanahan for the Rays. Starting with the pitchers, how much do you like them?
I like them both. They're both incredibly good. Better matchup for McClanahan. We have him as the third highest projected pitcher on DraftKings behind Cole and Pablo Lopez. Cease comes in right behind him, but like 3 points lower because the matchup's so difficult. So you have two very good pitchers. McClanahan, a 30.2% strikeout percentage since last year. Cease, 30.3, 2.72 xFIP for McClanahan, 3.54 for Cease. Two very, very good arms. I expect you'll get quite a bit more ownership coming into McClanahan at $600 more, taking on a White Sox team that has a sub-3 implied run total compared to Cease going up against a team that might win the most games ever in the history of baseball. The Rays are, obviously just an insanely tough matchup. So you can get to Cease in tournaments just based on how good he is as a pitcher. Hope he has his A-plus stuff and just goes out there and dominates. But much lower probability play than going to McClanahan. Good pitcher's park at home, taking on a White Sox team that isn't nearly as good offensively as Tampa Bay is. McClanahan, I think, is firmly in the top 3 pitcher pool today.
Do you really believe that the Rays have a shot at like putting up a record-setting season?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm looking at this lineup. I'm like, it doesn't look like that kind of lineup to me. That's going to absolutely crush. They also have good pitch. Like, it is a good team. Obviously,
yeah.
they
also
pitchers.
Just lost one of their best pitchers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's going to hurt them for sure. Yeah, I was like, man, the run they're on surprised me. Like, this is not one of the top 5 teams that I would have picked. I don't think to go on this kind of run. Maybe top 5, but definitely not top 3. Like, there are plenty of teams that I would have picked before the Rays to go on this kind of run. All right. How do you like the bats in this game?
I do not.
Yeah, 2 good pitchers, just not playing them.
Yeah,
okay.
If you go to bats, I think you just go to Tampa and take the talent and say like maybe they'll hit 8 more home runs today. But it's certainly not like Cease is not a pitcher I'm looking to target at all.
Okay. And how do you rank the 4 sides of it?
McClanahan 1, Cease 2, Tampa 3, White Sox 4.
Have you ever you go out drinking one night? Like, obviously I went out drinking. I was at the I was at the game last night, and there's stomach bugs going around in Minnesota right now. A lot of people are sick right now, and I'm like, man, I don't feel well. I'm like, am I getting sick? Did I pick something up at the game? And then I remember, oh yeah, I was just out late drinking last night, and I'm just feeling the results of that. So I keep on thinking, man, I think I might be getting sick. I really hope that I'm just a little bit hungover though, because I don't want to get sick. It sounds awful. People are throwing up, does not sound like a fun I guess it's never fun to get a stomach bug, but yeah, sounds pretty awful. So
as I've gotten older, that's become kind of the routine. Is like the day after I'll have a hangover, and it's like I know what it's from. And then 2 days after, I'm not like hungover, but it's like, man, I feel sick. Like, did I pick something up at the bar? And it's just like, no, you're just old now. And
you're right.
yeah,
Can't handle it.
right.
We can't hang, as Jordan Klein would say. All right. So 3 entries. Say you're playing just 3 lineups in a 3-entry max, or sorry, a 3 max contest. Which stacks are you going to here?
Phillies, Twins, Dodgers.
People are talking about Torkelson a lot in chat. Is Torkelson still on a hot streak? Is the question. Could be trapped. Did he go 0 for yesterday? I don't actually know. I didn't pay
don't know
attention.
if he went 0 for. I know he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything offensively, and then he made a bad throw at the end of the game to make sure the Tigers lost.
Is that why your stuff did not go well yesterday? Did you bet a lot on Spencer Torkelson?
Yeah, I took Sean V's advice and just unloaded on every Spencer Torkelson over I could find.
Of course. All right. How about pitchers? Top 3 favorite pitchers in the early slate.
Cole, Lopez, McClanahan.
And then let's do a home run pick.
Gallo.
Oh man, you do them so quickly. I gotta look at like who am I even thinking about here?
Well, at this point, I'm just taking the same guy every day. So.
That is true. That's 3 days in a row you've taken Gallo. Well, screw it. Then I'm gonna take Buxton. Yeah, I'll take Buxton at home. Whatever I'll take Buxton. We'll both take Twins here once again. I like this trend. If we're just taking Twins for our home run picks every day. All right. Well, we do have another slate to talk about. We still don't have ownership projections for this early slate, which is kind of a bummer. I know that they're working on it, so hopefully we have these soon. They're going to have it out before lock, so you don't have to worry about them not getting the ownership projections out there, but currently not available, so we can move on. Well, let's talk about the night slate, which is another 7 games. We still have just 28 minutes. We do have a hard out here, so we can't go over here, so we're gonna have to continue our rapid pace here. We got through those games really quickly. Late start, and we still got them done in like 20 minutes to get through the early slate. So we're on good pace here. Looks like the first game of the evening slate is Tigers at your Orioles. Hang on, let me change my view here real quick. We've got Joey Wentz on the mound for the Tigers, Kyle Gibson for the Orioles. Adam, how much do you like the pitchers here?
I have some interest in Gibson. He's not a pitcher that I typically love from a DFS standpoint, but he does have a good matchup here against Detroit. He's been, he's just a solid pitcher. Doesn't give up a ton of power. Since the start of last year, 22% strikeout percentage to righties, 16% to lefties. This year, the strikeout percentage is down. Expected ISO numbers are actually up to 201 expected ISO to lefties, 248 to righties. So, not the most exciting guy to get to, but he does go relatively deep in the games. He eats some innings. You have a relatively short slate here, not the best pitching in the world. So I don't mind Gibson as, sort of a secondary SP2 option. Not looking to get to Joey Wentz here. We do also have weather concerns in this one. I think this is the most, I think this is the riskiest game on the slate.
Yeah. Okay. So make sure you pay attention to the weather. Obviously, that's a night game, so we don't really know what to expect right now. But pay attention to the weather in Baltimore. All right. Assuming that the game goes, what's your level of interest in the bats?
Always interested in the Orioles bats. Goes without saying. But I'm one thing working against them. Like I do like them less when they face left-handed pitching, especially at home. But this lineup, like the so many of the best hitters in this lineup, Mullins, Henderson, both left-handed. Adley Rutschman claims that he last year was like the first time he's ever been worse right-handed than left-handed. And he has started out well right-handed this year. But from the data we have in professional baseball, Rutschman has been much better from the left side. So turning him around, against a left-handed pitcher, he says is fine or is good for him. Maybe it is, but it hasn't been so far. And then combined with that, when they're at home, you're talking about, right-handed bats with the, 400-foot high wall that's 370 feet from home plate in left field. So it becomes really difficult to hit home runs. So I always like this team more against right-handed pitching, especially when they're at home. But still, it's an unproven pitcher in Wentz. It's a lineup that does still have a lot of power, a lot of good hitters. So some interest in the Orioles. From the Tigers side, I don't love the full stack, but, as I said, Gibson has had some issues with power this year. You do have Riley Green, you have Kerry Carpenter, Akil Baddoo. Those 3 lefties I like here because this park does still play up left-handed power, and they all have power. They're all pretty cheap. If you were full stacking, you probably mix in some combination of Nick Maton, Baez, Torkelson, but Green, Carpenter, Baddoo in particular, I do like.
Okay. And how would you rank the 4 sides?
Gibson 1, Orioles 2, Tigers 3, Wentz 4.
Nice. Jason Kish, welcome to Team Stochastic. Happy to have you here. Razor Moan says, "Hey bro, your hat is broken. Maybe bend it a little." Yeah, have you not thought about, you got to bend your hat, Adam? This is
No, I'm good.
this flat bill thing. It doesn't work as well. You're not going to block as much sun. Yeah, that's you got to break in your hat, Adam. All right. Second game on this slate is Oakland at Texas. We've got Shintaro Fujinami on the mound for the A's, Andrew Heaney for the Rangers. What's your level of interest in the pitchers here?
Absolutely love Andrew Heaney. Absolutely do not love the other guy.
Okay. Do you want to expound on that, or is that just you absolutely?
Yeah,
I mean, that's strong love for Heaney.
Andrew Heaney's just an elite strikeout pitcher that gives up a ton of power. 33.8% strikeout percentage since the start of last year, 3.17 xFIP, 1.75 home runs per 9 innings. But the A's don't have a lot of power in this lineup to take advantage of that. And Heaney's not exactly expensive. He's coming in at $8,800. He's the highest projected pitcher on this slate by like 1.5. So just looks really, really good against a lineup that I don't expect to really be able to take advantage of his proneness to giving up home runs. On the other side, Fujinami in a relatively difficult matchup against the Rangers, just not somebody I'm really looking to get to.
Okay. How about the bats then? I mean, if it's a tough spot, you don't like Fujinami. Do you like the Rangers bats? Tell me about both sides.
Yeah, I do like the Rangers bats. I would certainly like them more if Corey Seager weren't injured, but you have Marcus Semien, Nathaniel Lowe, Garcia, Josh Young, Jonah Heim. These guys are all high upside hitters. You can round out stacks with anything else from the lineup if you need to, but those are the guys that are going to look good. Fujinami has not been impressive so far in a very limited time in the majors. He's only thrown a total of 226 pitches. So far, a very amazing 503 expected ISO to right-handed bats, sub 100 to lefties, not striking lefties out, 22.5% strikeout percentage against righties. So we still don't really know what this guy is, but there's nothing that has seemed particularly impressive so far. Semien, Lowe, Garcia, Young, Heim, again, like I just like getting to all these guys.
Absolutely. And do you have any interest in the A's?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted to go one-offs, like Brent Rooker does have power against the pitcher that'll give it up. Shea Langoliers, if you need a cheap catcher that has some power upside, you can go there. But outside of just like trying to grab a random home run, I don't really see anything.
Okay. And how would you rank the 4 sides?
Heaney 1, Rangers 2, Brent Rooker and Shea Langoliers 3, Fujinami 4.
Okay, just taking those 2 from the A's.
Yeah, I guess you can throw Diaz in there too.
Okay. Dude Homie Manbra says, "Don't ever talk about Adam's hat or you get daggers." First of all, I love that name, Dude Homie Manbra. And yeah, Adam, he's very sensitive about that hat. It's his baby there. Can't talk shit about that hat. I mean, it's a lovely hat. You just have to remember to curve it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a bad hat. I'm just saying you got to curve your hat a little. That's all.
Yeah, it makes me go from looking like I'm 33 to I'm like 48.
I mean, that's true. Maybe maybe I need to just start doing the flat bill stuff. Maybe that's why everybody thinks that I'm the same age as EMAC when I'm like 11 years younger than him. All right. Boston at Milwaukee. We've got Garrett Whitlock on the mound for the Red Sox, Wade Miley for the Brewers. Starting with pitchers, how much do you like them?
So Whitlock's relatively inexpensive at 7,200, pulling 15% ownership, 17% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Not a bad arm at all. Decent matchup here against Milwaukee. 23% strikeout percentage, 3.72 xFIP since last year. I do think you can go to him as an SP2. Not particularly interested in going to Wade Miley. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He's pulling 8.5% ownership, 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So you could certainly argue that he's going under owned. Like if you compare him to Kyle Gibson, Gibson's $800 more on DraftKings. They have nearly an identical top 2 pitcher percentage, and Miley's getting half the ownership. So just from that standpoint, you can make the case for Miley in some tournament lineups. But I know I personally do still prefer Gibson. I think most people will. The matchup's better against Detroit. So in tournaments, I think Miley's fine, but not, just as a contrarian play, nothing I'm confident in. Whitlock, I'm more interested in at only 7,200. He is 4th in top 2 pitcher percentage. The 3 pitchers ahead of him cost 8,800, 9,800, and 10,400. So, it stands out as a value option.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about the bats here?
Nothing I like too much. Neither pitcher is bad. Miley does not miss a lot of bats, but does typically do an okay job limiting power. So nothing that really stands out from the Boston side. 152 expected ISO to righties since the start of last year. As far as Whitlock goes, 152 expected ISO to lefties, 150 to righties. Kind of surprised that the Brewers have the higher implied run total here, but there's nothing that really stands out.
Okay. And how would you rank the four sides of it?
Whitlock 1, Red Sox 2, Brewers 3, Miley 4. Actually, I guess Whitlock 1, Miley 2, just because of what I was just talking about with the ownership in tournaments. It's not that I like Miley, but I do think he looks pretty good in the top pitchers tool from a contrarian standpoint. So I'll move him to 2 and then go Brewers 3 and Red Sox 4.
Okay, breaking news here. Nabi Issa says, "Holy shit, Adam looks exactly like my Tampa Bay Luke Raley card on Sorare." I might have to pull Sorare back up so we can look at this.
Someone told me the other day I look like Luke Raley too.
All right, so you might look exactly like Luke Raley. That's fun. I'll look this up in a second. Put it up on screen.
I can definitely see that one.
Okay. You just ranked the four sides. I got distracted because I was so excited that you look like another comparison for Adam. But you just ranked the four sides, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And keep the comparisons coming because they can't get worse than Dustin May.
That is true. Good pitcher though. Good pitcher.
Yeah.
So you might have Justin May's pitching today. So you might have two twins going today.
CJ Cron's playing today too.
Oh, that's right. Houston and Atlanta, we have Framber Valdez on the mound for the Astros, Kyle Wright for the Braves. Starting with the pitchers, what is your level of interest?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one because both of these pitchers are pretty good. They're also both in difficult matchups, so that's going to drive down their projection. Framber Valdez is the third highest projected pitcher on this slate. Obviously, you're paying for him. He's relatively expensive, but third in top 2 pitcher percentage, pulling 17% ownership. Very, very good ground ball pitcher. Not a great strikeout pitcher, but not horrible either. So if you have the money for Valdez in lineups, great. 23.6% strikeout percentage since last year, 302 xFIP. Dangerous matchup against Atlanta, but 108 expected ISO allowed to right-handed hitters, sub 100 to lefties. He's just so good at getting the ball hit into the ground. The average launch angle for right-handed bats for right-handed hitters against Valdez since the start of last year is negative 3.7 degrees. Like, I don't know. I never remember like what the ideal launch angle is or anything of that. I know negative means you're just hitting the ball straight down. So,
okay.
Pretty impressive that's, the average. And it's the same to lefties, negative 3.8 degrees. So on average, you're just hitting the ball straight into the ground against this guy. On the other side, Kyle Wright started out really well last year, dropped off a little bit towards the end of the year, but overall ended up, just having a solid season. Struck out 23.4% of hitters, 3.37 xFIP. Tough matchup against Houston, but he is really cheap. This is kind of like the Alek Manoah spot on this slate. Putting aside the, Alek Manoah has been awful this year part. Just, a solid pitcher in a tough matchup, but also priced like he doesn't belong in the major leagues when he definitely does. So you have 23% ownership coming into Wright. He's actually projected to be the third highest owned pitcher on DraftKings. With the way ownership looks right now, I would certainly prefer getting to Garrett Whitlock in that price range. He's $400 more, but he has a higher top 2 pitcher percentage at lower ownership. But Kyle Wright certainly does work as a value option just because he's cheap relative to his talent level.
Nice. How about the bats?
I like the left-handed bats from Houston. Wright has had some problems with that. 180 expected ISO since the start of last year compared to a 155 actual ISO. So you could certainly see some regression there. You get Yordan Alvarez, you get Kyle Tucker. They're both going to look really good. Obviously, you can go to Bregman, Abreu, Pena, just good hitters. But individually, Alvarez and Tucker look very, very good. The Atlanta side, nothing looks good. It's more so like if you're going to stack Atlanta, you're just saying Atlanta has a lot of really good hitters. Maybe Framber Valdez won't have it today and they'll light him up, but there's not like one individual hitter because the way I view this is basically like, I mean, you can always play like Ronald Acuna, but the way I basically view this is if Framber Valdez has his normal stuff, every hitter in this lineup is in a terrible spot, especially for power, which is what you really want in DFS. If Framber Valdez, has one of the 3 bad starts he's going to have this year, you just want all the Braves hitters. So spots like this, to me, it's typically either just full stack them at low ownership and hope that you get, one of the few bad starts Valdez will have, or just mostly stay away from this team.
Okay. Yeah. Dylan Danucci asked, and I did see that you messaged me on Twitter as well. There is going to be ownership. There were some issues with just because there are different slates for FanDuel and DraftKings. So I don't really know how it works behind the scenes, but I do know that they are working on getting the ownership working for the early slate, because it's fairly important here. All right, so how do you rank the four sides of the Houston Atlanta game?
Valdez 1, Wright 2, Alvarez, Tucker 3, Braves 4.
All right, so I got the picture up on screen, Adam. I've got the Luke Raley card that we're talking about. Yeah, that is a better comparison for you. I think that looks a lot like you. And then we also just got Craig Kimbrell. Somebody says you look like the Craig Kimbrell on SoRare, so I'm going to pull that up as well, as long as we're here.
I mean, I don't see this. I don't know the SoRare picture, but like I can see similarities. I think I look a lot more like Raley.
Yeah, I think you do. Yeah,
It's tough too with Kimbrell, because like 90% of the pictures you find, he has a beard that like goes down to his stomach.
Yeah. In the store, I can see it in the SoRare picture. I do think that Raley looks a little bit more like you, but I definitely see it in this Kimbrell. I think these are, like, as far as the comparisons I've heard for you, I think they're two of the better ones.
Yeah,
like they look more like you than a lot that I've heard. So
I don't even know who SportsWiz is referring to, but I do appreciate the comment on Josh.
SportsWiz. Nah, that looks like Josh missing a few chromosomes. Oh man, for the Luke Raley photo. Interesting. Also, I see all this Anthony Richardson chat in YouTube chat, and I'm like, so this year I'm playing some best ball, so I finally actually like have some idea about the call. Like I'm paying attention a little bit to college quarterbacks and players who are relevant in best ball, and it sounds like people are like very, very split on Anthony Richardson. Have you paid attention at all to this NFL draft?
I paid attention enough to like know that everybody split on Anthony Richardson. I didn't pay enough attention to college to have any take on him as a player. The general idea that I've gotten from just seeing people talk is there's a lot of it seems like a lot of times people are missing the nuance, and like you can think that somebody's a great best ball pick and not think they're a great NFL pick.
Right.
Like Anthony Richardson has a massive ceiling for best ball based on his tools and ability. There's a very good chance he fails as an NFL quarterback, but so that's kind of the thing. Like you have to are you talking best ball or are you talking draft? Because like those are going to typically lead to two very different conversations.
Sounds like people in chat want them on their team, so at least people in chat think that he will be a good real life quarterback, which I have no idea. Like I don't watch college football, so I'm just following the chat on Twitter. Basically, that's all that I know about Anthony Richardson. But it sounds like some people think that he could be good for both.
You better learn some more since you're doing the NFL draft show.
Is that official yet? I don't know. I've been asked. I believe that I am. Yes, it's. I don't know that it's finalized, but yeah, I will be doing a little bit more research. Yeah, I'm excited. So it's likely that I'll be doing a stream during the first 2 days of the NFL draft. I don't know that it's finalized yet, but that'll be in the evening. Looking forward to doing that. But yeah, I'll have to learn a little bit more about some of these guys. I mean, it doesn't really like. I can, even without knowing that much about people, I can know, like, is this a good landing spot? Is this a bad landing spot? How does it affect other people on the team? So like, I don't need to like do a ton of research, but I kind of have been digging in a little bit more already, like watching videos on different receivers and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. All right. Padres at Diamondbacks. We have Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres, Merrill Kelly for the D-backs. How much do you like the pitchers here?
Both pitchers are okay. Neither matchup is a spot that I love. I don't love the $9,200 price tag on Musgrove in this spot either. He is not getting any ownership at 5%. I trying to pull up and see how deep we can expect him to go in this game. This will be his first start of the season. Coming back off the injured list. Looks like he had 2 minor league rehab starts. Went 9 1/3. I assume that he's relatively stretched out. 69 pitches on a couple starts ago. Yeah, I assume that he can go relatively deep into this game. I doubt that they're going to push him too far. At that price tag in a tough matchup, it makes me not really want to get to him. On the other side for Merrill Kelly, solid real-life pitcher, not a lot of strikeouts, very, very tough matchup against the Padres. Both of these guys, projected to go under-owned, but also both pretty low probability plays.
Okay. How about the bats?
Padres are always interesting just because they are the Padres. They have a 5.1 implied run total here against Kelly. They did suck yesterday. So for once, my immediate first take beat out the numbers, beat out the data in the morning when I couldn't figure out why the Padres looked good, but they did. But Kelly, not the same level of pitcher as Zach Gallen. I do like the idea of getting the Padres bats here. 176 expected ISO to lefties, 142 to righties since the start of last year. You're going to prefer left-handed bats, which isn't surprising. Juan Soto hasn't been great this year, hitting below 200 like we were talking about yesterday. Power numbers have still been solid, though. Still a positive, still above average in terms of WRC plus. Actually saw Saris put out a really interesting tweet yesterday with the heat map for how pitchers are pitching Soto and the heat map for the pitches that Soto swings at. Basically, pitchers are just pounding the bottom of the strike zone against Soto, and Soto is just taking the pitches because that's not what he wants to hit. And Soto is such a selective hitter that it's almost like his eye and selectiveness is getting him in trouble, I think, because he's allowing himself to just get buried in counts by not swinging at pitches at the bottom of the zone. So it's gonna probably be a cat and mouse thing where Soto needs to show pitchers he can actually hit that pitch, and he'll swing at it, and then you'll see them have to work back up in the zone, and he'll start pounding baseballs again. But it was a really interesting thing to look at. But either way, happy to get the Soto here, and then while they're right-handed, still Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, those guys are going to look good. Cronenworth and Carpenter look solid. So I do like the Padres bats here against Kelly. The Diamondbacks are a little bit more difficult to talk about because they do have high upside guys. You have Ketel Marte, Carroll, Walker, Rojas, Gabby Moreno's a solid catcher, one of the better hitting catcher prospects in baseball. Joe Musgrove is one of these pitchers where when he's on, he's really difficult to hit, but he's also pretty volatile. And you do have him coming back, making his first start of the year. He wasn't great in his minor league starts. So from a full stack standpoint, I think Arizona is interesting just because of the unknown. But when you look individually at hitters outside of saying, yeah, Marte, Carroll, Walker, these guys are good. There's not a hitter I can point to and say well, if Joe Musgrove has his good stuff, I would still like this hitter. But there's, I think, just more volatility in Musgrove today, which makes the Diamondbacks look interesting.
Yep. Josh Gillum asking if there's any weather concerns in the early slate. I don't think that there are any big weather concerns in the early slate. The Twins, it's cold here, but I don't think the game is going to get canceled for temps in the 30s. So I think that we're probably okay as far as weather.
Right now, I think the only game that we're worried about getting postponed is the Orioles game, which is on the night slate.
Yep. And Rance asks, is there a hoop show next? Yes, there is. There's a hoop show in 8 minutes. So we do have to finish on time here. I don't know who's on that show. I tried to look it up in the schedule, but I don't want to change somebody else looking at it, so I can't do that right now. But yeah, we do have a hoop show coming up next. So definitely stick around for that. And then 1-2 said about Anthony Richard, he's got that stormtrooper accuracy. Adam, you strike me as a guy who maybe has not watched Star Wars. Have you watched much Star Wars?
I've watched zero Star Wars.
You watched zero Star Wars. Wow. Okay. My wife and I have been going through it chronologically. We're up to episode 5 next, I think. So yeah, we've been getting through and I've watched most of it already. So I am rewatching Star Wars. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's entertaining enough that I'm willing to watch it twice, I guess.
Yeah. Never seen Star Wars, never seen Star Trek, never seen Lord of the Rings. I don't know why I even put that in there. I just, in my head, put all that.
They're all nerd stuff, nerd shows.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. You don't like the fantasy stuff.
Nope.
All right. Did you already rank the 4 sides of San Diego, Arizona?
I did watch and like Harry Potter.
Okay.
And no, I didn't. So I'll go Padres bats 1, D-backs bats 2, Musgrove 3, Kelly 4.
Okay. 2 games left. We got 7 minutes to get through them, so I think we're making fine time. We've got the Royals at the Angels. Zach Greinke on the mound for the Royals. Tyler Anderson for the Angels. Do you like either of these pitchers?
I certainly do not like Zach Greinke. Tyler Anderson's kind of interesting in that cheap price range. He's interesting in the same way that Wade Miley's interesting. 7,400, 10.5% ownership. You have more than double that ownership coming into Kyle Wright. Garrett Whitlock's 1.5 times as popular. None of these guys are 1.5 or 2x Anderson in terms of top 2 pitcher percentage. So from a contrarian tournament angle, I think he's fine. Decent matchup against KC. Not a great strikeout pitcher. Does typically do a good job limiting power. 142 expected ISO to righties since last year, 101 to lefties. So nothing exciting about Tyler Anderson, but just somebody where it's I want to get a little bit lower owned pitcher here than Davies or Whitlock. Tyler Anderson fits the bill.
Okay. How about bats?
Certainly like the Angels bats against Greinke. He can be a very frustrating pitcher to take batters against, because you feel like you could probably go up there and hit against him, and then you watch your guys struggle because he just throws slow and slower, and he's smart and still understands how to pitch, but still huge blow up risk too, just because he doesn't have the stuff to overpower anybody. He has such a small margin for error that you're just going to get more blow up outings out of somebody like Greinke than you are guys that still have major league quality stuff. Since the start of last year, 182 expected ISO to righties, only 129 to lefties. This year, 207 to lefties, 168 to righties so far. Shohei Ohtani, obviously, I don't care what Zach Greinke has or hasn't done against lefties. You're going to want to play Ohtani. Ward, Trout, Rendon, Renfroe, Drury, Jake Lamb. Like, there's a lot of power in this lineup. Good hitters park. Certainly like the Angels quite a bit. As far as the Kansas City side, Anderson is, like I said, pretty good at limiting power. You can still go to the top of the order here. Bobby Witt gives you not only home run upside, but stolen base upside, which is nice. Salvador Perez is always a pretty high upside catcher option, but much less interested in the Royals than I normally am, because one, Anderson doesn't give up a lot of power, but two, you also have like two of the four hitters that I always like rostering from Kansas City are Pasquantino and Melendez, and you have them lefty here against Anderson, which isn't ideal.
Okay. How do you rank them? The four sides.
Angels bats 1, Anderson 2, KC 3, Greinke 4.
Boss Bra says that he would not put Game of Thrones in the same category as the other shows there. Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily would either. Definitely, if I were going to recommend any of those shows to Adam, I would recommend Game of Thrones. I think it's the one that he would be most likely. It's also my favorite of the group.
Yeah, like I don't think, and again, not having seen any of them, like I don't think that they're similar in like anything. Like I don't think that they're similar, but they are like in my brain. It's still like you tell me what Game of Thrones is about, and I'm just like, no. And, you say the word Star Wars, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to watch this.
You don't like fantasy stuff. I mean, they're all fantasy, I would say. So that's the similarity, but they're all very different.
Like I think there's a good chance that if I got dragged into watching Game of Thrones and like the way that I'll end up watching Game of Thrones is if like I'm dating somebody and she insists I watch it and like forces me to watch the first 4 or 5 episodes and get into it, I'm sure I'd end up liking it. It's just like I'm never going to sit down and watch it on my own.
Yeah, I get it. It's I loved it. So but yeah, if you've probably heard all the reasons to watch it, and if you're still choosing not to, I'm not going to be able to convince you in the next.
When I was in law school, I was at a friend's house and he put on the first episode and tried to get me to watch. I watched like 10 minutes and I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen, and that's all I've seen from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Nabi Issa says Game of Thrones is about 2 cousins destroying the world so they can have sex. Yeah. Something like that. All right, we do have one more game to get through in 3 minutes, so we'll go to that one. St. Louis at Seattle. We've got Miles Michaelis on the mound for the Cardinals, Luis Castillo for the Mariners. Starting with the pitchers, what is your level of interest?
2 more good pitchers. Castillo, clearly better than Michaelis, but dangerous spot for Castillo. Good pitchers park, though. I think you can sort of just bet on the talent here for Castillo. We have him as the second highest projected pitcher on the slate behind Andrew Heaney. And the thing is, when you talk about the good pitching on this slate, Heaney's got the good matchup, but then Valdez is facing Atlanta. You're not really excited about that. And those are the only 3 like actually really good pitchers on this slate in terms of strikeout upside, or in terms of DFS production, at least. Not so much strikeouts for Valdez, but he goes deep in the games. You get strikeouts from Heaney and Castillo. So this isn't a slate where you have, outside of Heaney, good pitching facing bad offenses. So since everything is relative, it makes you a little bit more willing to go to Castillo in a tough spot against the Cardinals. So certainly scary, but he is one of the best pitchers on the slate. 3.3 implied run total for the Cards. Michaelis is another one of these pitchers that, like, I don't love the matchup against the Mariners. I don't love him as a DFS pitcher because he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. But if you're going to slap a $6,300 price tag on him, you have to be at least somewhat interested. It is a favorable pitcher's park, and he's like a $7,500, $7,800 pitcher. So making him $6,300 sort of makes all the things that I dislike about him not as important.
Right. More tolerable there. How about the bats?
Not a lot to like, two solid pitchers, not a good park for power. If you are going to bats, I think I would go to the Seattle side first. 173 expected ISO to righties since last year for Michaelis, 145 to lefties. Julio Rodriguez, obviously fantastic. Cal Raleigh is always one of my favorite catchers to play because he has a lot of power. France, Suarez, Hernandez, Kelenic, these guys are all just, good hitters. The Cardinals obviously have a lot of good hitters as well, but I have a hell of a lot more respect for Castillo as a pitcher than I do Michaelis.
Okay, and then rank the 4 sides.
Castillo 1, Michaelis 2, Mariners 3, Cardinals 4.
Okay, and 3 favorite stacks from the late slate.
Let's go Padres, Angels, and Damn, I'm just on chalk stacks today. And Rangers.
And how 3 favorite pitchers from the night slate?
Heaney, Castillo, Whitlock.
And home run pick.
I don't know. Joey Gallo's not playing.
Ah, shit.
I almost went to one of the Tigers, but I can't do that. Let's go with Josh Young.
All right, I will go with I'll go with Juan Soto. Just throw in one out there. We got to get out of here, so I don't have much time to think about it. We do have an NBA show coming up right now, so make sure you stick around for that NBA show coming up next. Thank you guys once again for joining us on this stream. Please do like the video if you have not yet done so. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. We do have to head out so that we can start that NBA stream, the NBA slate starting in an hour. So thank you guys very much for joining us. We will catch you later.